signs of being affected with magic or suffering of magical spell. Okay, I'm going to discuss those signs, but here is the problem. That sometimes whenever any person is having any temporary affliction, right away they link that to magic or black magic. And they have the tendency to believe that more than anything else. So what I'm saying here are some of the signs. They do not necessarily have to appear all or entirely on the same person. And when any of them or more appear, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person is afflicted with a magical spell. But it could be. There is a possibility. So with further investigation, such as with the recitation of the Quran and the Ruqya, we start to find out whether the person is under magical spell or not. But please, that happens for the medical students when they study pathology, when they study pharmacology. So whenever they come across any disease, like the students are studying tuberculosis and the signs of coughing and coughing constantly. So when the person is having common cold, is coughing, and it's taken more than a couple days. So right away he would interpret those signs as if he has this disease, and he lives in the mood, and he becomes under the influence of the fear that he has this disease, and he behaves like he is really having that disease. So those signs are not clinically diagnosed as have a clinical reason. Yani, the person may have severe headache, permanent headache, or permanent migraine. Even the medication doesn't affect because it's not clinical. The person may lose interest in eating, in drinking, in socializing with people, prefer to live by themselves. And these symptoms are new. This is not the person's habit. Some people are not social by nature. Some people live with a clinical migraine, clinical headache. So this is a clinical condition which improves with the medication if they take it. It could be, they could be seized with seizures and fits which are not diagnosed as epilepsy. The person is not an epileptic patient, but these seizures and fits are something new whenever Satan is possessing that person. Severe stomachache, especially in the lower part, for an unknown reason. There is no clinical diagnosis. Severe back pain, weakness in the eyesight, laziness. The person would feel like he doesn't want to get off bed. They want to sleep, they don't want to go to work, they don't want to study, they don't want to read Quran. Heaviness when it comes to offering the acts of worship. Tendency to commit sins. They lose interest in having intimate relationship with their spouses. They become less social with people, and they become less loving to their family members. They have a very bad temper. They get offended for any reason. As I say, these signs, all of them or some of them, may afflict the person who is afflicted with a magical spell or suffering of magic, and they do not necessarily have to indicate the person is having a magical spell, unless if they have nothing to do with the clinical diagnosis. The person forgets a lot. The person also may even think that he had an intimate relationship with his or her spouse, and in fact they haven't had this relationship for weeks or for months. He may seem, or he perceives himself or herself that have done things or said things, and in reality they did not, frequently forgetting. There are many other signs, but this is some of the very prominent signs. If the person al-waswasa, constantly suffering of the whispers, and if it is not diagnosed as obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a clinical case which has its own treatment, then it could be due to an evil eye, could be to a magical spell. All of that will be verified, especially when the person comes to do an act of worship, where he feels like he is dragging his feet, just carrying a mountain over her shoulders when it comes to pray. And they do not have any interest in opening the Quran or listening to the Quran. Especially when they come to listen to the Quran, if the person is reciting a ruqya, then, or Surah Al-Baqarah particularly, and the greatest ayah of the Quran, Ayat al-Kursi, they start having like a tachycardia. The pulse would be on the rise, and they think that they are going to faint, and they may scream, they may make sounds which are not there. Somebody else is speaking on their tongue. Stop this Quran, stop the ruqyah, stop reciting. So this is a sign the person is affected with the sihr or magical spells or even an evil eye. Assalamu alaikum.